so today I'm going to talk about a trade that numerous folks have been asking me about lately. It's a trade that I learned a long time ago from, initially learned it from a market maker years back, and he had this kind of crazy name that he would call it. But essentially what it is, it's basically just selling naked puts on, say, the SPX, way out of the money, and then taking some of the money that you get from the selling of those puts and buying a closer to the money put debit spread. So I kind of think of it just as kind of like it's very similar to just basically a naked put strategy, a naked put strategy in disguise. Or like my friend called trades like this, it's like a lipstick on a pig naked put strategy. Basically, it's selling a naked put strategy, like selling naked puts on the SPX. That's where you're making the money from. And then you're taking some of that money to buy a little, like a put debit spread in front of it. In this video, I'll kind of explain the reasons why why this trade is kind of bothersome to me. And this is, just selling naked puts on the SPX is a fine strategy. I have nothing against that. I have nothing against the strategy, but it's not ideal for me, and it's not ideal for a lot of people that are out there trading. Like Warren Buffett, I believe he trades naked puts on the SPX, and he's done remarkably well at it. But for like a newer retail trader, or let's say, like, I always kind of use the test of, would I be comfortable putting my mom's money in this? My mom's like in her 80s, and she's sort of entrusted me to kind of watch over her money and make sure that, she's not being taken advantage of or putting it in bad investments or whatnot. So the test I always kind of use is this a safe trade, or is this not that safe of a trade? Would I be comfortable, would I feel good about putting my mom's money into this trade, like a big bulk of my mom's money into this trade? And the answer to that is no, I wouldn't. And maybe that's just because I know of a better way now, and that's just taken some time, like time in trading and years of trading and trying different things and learning, where I've found a strategy that can basically do the exact same thing and more, but it's not as risky. It really is safe. It is much, much safer than this. And that's a trade, which I'll be showing you in this video, that I would feel comfortable putting my mom's money in. Where this one, it's, like I said, it's a fine strategy. Let's just kind of go back. Like, I started off trading credit spreads and iron condors, and I used to be like really into iron condors. I thought they were the greatest thing since sliced bread, and it's a cool strategy, and it's a good strategy, but just having a lot of experience trading it and being in the market trading for 20 years, there's some downsides to the iron condors that aren't really apparent to you until you have to experience them and lose some money, or until you discover and find a trade that can do the same thing, only better and with much less risk. And that's kind of where I'm at with this trade. Like, if this was like 5 to 7, maybe 10 years ago, and I was introduced to this strategy, I would maybe think that it was the best strategy that I had ever found. And it could have been up to that point. But after you trade strategies for a while and you've been in the market for a while, you start to look at things differently, and some things are glaringly obvious that may not have been so glaringly obvious back then. For example, this trade is this downside here, this slope going down. And back then, if someone would have introduced me to the strategy, I would have started trading it. It may have been kind of in the back of my head, like, yeah, that could be problematic. So like, is that risk really real? But then I may go on to try to convince myself or be convinced by others. That's a very low probability event that's going to happen, and it's fine. And just kind of like sweep it under the carpet and push it into the corner, and just basically ignore it until that morning when there is a huge significant drop in the market and that person's not there to help you, and you're experiencing massive pain and your emotions are all crazy and out of whack. You feel like you're going to throw up. And those assurances that you had and that you convinced yourself that it's a low probability event are just, they're out the window. You're panicking, and it's not a pretty scene. And if you want to know how I know that, yes, I've been in those situations before. So when someone asks me about this trade and I look at it, just look at it right off the bat. I can see that there's a problem with this. And again, it's not making it a bad strategy. It's like, compared to a lot of these strategies out there, or maybe even most strategies, this is a really cool strategy. But the thing is, I guess, is there something better? Is there a way to fix the problem? There's a glaring problem with this, at least for me, which is the downside risk. And so rather than just throw this thing out the window, what I want to do is I want to take a look at it and familiarize myself with it, trade it as it exists on a small scale, not risking a lot of money, kind of testing it, and then see how I feel after trading it for a couple weeks. If I still have that issue, if I still have that problem, where I'm still bothered by that, if I still think that's a problem, that downside risk. And if I do, the main thing is how can I fix it? How can I trade this trade and create it in such a way, tweak it in such a way where we can significantly reduce or even eliminate that downside risk and turn it into a strategy that I would be comfortable putting my mom's money in? So that's this new project that I'm starting here on this trade over the next month or so, where I'm going to actually I'm going to take the trade as it exists already, trade it on a smaller scale, do trade tests with it and see how it performs, just see how it reacts to the market, see how I feel after a couple weeks of trading it. And then at that point, decide if it's a trade that I want to continue to trade, if I'm comfortable trading it with this big naked risk to the downside, or is there a way where I can tweak it and fix it so I can really reduce that risk and turn it into a trade that I would be really super comfortable using. So it's sort of like an experiment, and you can follow along with me on this. It's like, I'm going to put up my money, I'm going to risk my money to make these trades just as they exist, and then just kind of watch the performance of them, see how they act, and then see if there's a way to potentially, tweak them, morph them, add pieces to it to make it just more of a really safe trade. And the way that it exists now, I don't consider this a safe trade. I'm sure it's safer than a lot of trades out there, but when you look at it, there's a problem. It's sort of like, cars back in the 50s, 60s when they had cars, there were no seat belts. And would I feel comfortable putting my kids in like an old car like that with no seat belts, no airbags, and letting them drive, across country? Or if I had the alternative to use like a new model with a bunch of safety features on it, airbags, seat belts, computer systems that can alert you if you're veering off the road or you're ready to collide with something. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. I would obviously want to put my kids in the safer, newer, better car. So the whole idea behind this project is to take this trade, see how it performs, drive this car around this trade, see if I like it, and if I do and I want to continue trading it, how can I make this a safe trade like the other trade that you'll see in this video, which is my main trade, my main bread and butter core strategy. And it's similar to this. It's just it has all those extra additional safety features and risk control and airbags and seat belts, and even performs better than this riskier trade here. So that's what this video is about, and I'd love for you to join me on this. I'm planning to take the next month or so to do this. Again, I'm just going to trade the strategy as it exists, see how it performs, see if we can tweak it and morph it and turn it into something that's much safer, and also compare it to my main bread and butter strategy, which I'll show you more about in this video here. So let's get into it. So again, let's just kind of back up and go to the beginning of this. This is a trade that I've seen for several years. I saw Market Maker explain it several years back, and it seems to be kind of growing in popularity now. And the key thing with this trade, why I'm interested in it, because this is like about 2 or 3 years ago, I stumbled across this group that teach a really interesting trade that is similar to this. And this actually looks like part of it, like maybe the first part of it. So with this other trade that I'm doing, it's become my main trade, my main bread and butter trade. I call it my end game trade because I think that it's the trade that I'll just continue to use. It's the core of my 3 strategies that I use. It's the rock, and it's the most, it's the safest, and it's not this one. I'll show you one. Well, I can show you right now. Let's look at the other one here. This is an example of it. This isn't the exact trade, but this is like a variation that I threw together real quick to give you an idea of how it looks and the general idea of it. So this is the trade that I'm talking about. So a couple years back, I stumbled across this group that had a totally unique new way of trading options that really solved a lot of the problems that I had through all the years I've traded them. It was trades that are similar to this. This isn't the exact trade again. This is just kind of a mock-up that I threw together that gives the basic idea so I can visually explain like why I like this trade and why it's kind of my core trade. But it's essentially a trade where it's similar to the Fury Road trade that we looked at the other day, where we try to put these trades on so you can make a profit. It's the delta neutral trade, so you make a profit regardless of what the market does, whether it goes up or down. And we're far up like we are in the Fury Road trade, and we're far up from like the danger zone. Again, this is a trade that has risk only on one side, the downside. And so if it were to move up, there's a way to make these trades so that if it moves up, there's no pain involved. You'll make a profit. If it stays where it's at, you'll make a profit. If it moves down, you'll make a profit. And the most important part is if it moves down hard, like if there's a crash or if volatility pops, the way that these are constructed is there's very little pain involved and very little risk, if any risk. For example, let's look at this trade right here. So this trade, the way it's constructed right here, this is where the SPX is trading at right there. And if it stays right where it's at, we're going to make money. If it moves up, we're going to make money. If it moves down, this is a 10% down line. If it moves down, we're going to make money. And if it moves down quick, or even at all, if it just comes down here, you can see the pink line here. The pink line is the 0-day line. And you can see how the pink line comes up into this area here, which is similar to that Fury Road trade, like the cab of the car, or like that boxy area on the Fury Road trade. So this is very similar to that, except with the Fury Road trade, if it crashes on day 1 or day 0, like right now today, or if there was a crash, say tonight, while the market's closed, we woke up and all hell had broken loose, this trade is going to become super profitable, much more profitable than it will in this area, but immediately it'll become more profitable. And this is with the low volatility. The other cool thing about this trade is that if there was a crash and volatility just blew up, skyrocketed, this trade here, the pink line, is going to raise up. And in a black swan type of event, this trade has the potential to provide you with a huge profit, like way more than you'd ever get in here. Whereas the exact opposite with that Fury Road trade. If we look at the Fury Road trade, you can see that if there's a crash right now on day 1, day 0, you're gonna be in a world of hurt. And let's just kind of set some benchmarks. And again, this isn't exactly the trade. Both of these trades are just kind of thrown on real quick, just to give a general visual idea of the difference between the two. So in this trade, if it stays where it's at or goes up, we make money. If it stays where it's at or comes down to this area, down 10%, this is a 10% line right here. It comes down here, we make money. If it drops below 10%, you can see how the pink line raises up right here. And in the way that this particular trade is set up, there's no 0-day risk whatsoever, except for right here, which is quite a ways down. That's like, how far down is that? That's like 25% down right there. So if it were to tank all of a sudden down 25%, this loss here, we can see how it dips below the 0 line. But in reality, the way the volatility works, if there was a big crash like that, volatility would skyrocket and this thing would just take off. Let's see if I can get, I think there's a way to show visually. And again, all these aren't exact, the numbers you're going to see in the examples here, but it's just, I'm trying to visually explain the basics of the differences and how each trade works. So with this trade, let's say that there was like an overnight disaster or something, like a nuclear bomb went off and the market just tanked and it was a huge crash, a black swan type of event. So volatility would just skyrocket in that case. And you can see right now the way that this is set up, the structure, volatility is just at a 0 baseline, like what it's at right now. But let's just raise the volatility. Let's just say volatility rises by 5%. Oh, it's not letting me do it. I'll have to tick it up. So let's say that volatility rises up by 5%. As I'm ticking, you can watch this. Watch this pink line. This pink line will move and it will be moving up. So again, in a big disaster, black swan type of event, volatility is going to rise up and it's going to rise more than 5%. I can tell you that if it was a big event like that. So with just 5% increase in volatility, you can see how the 0-day line is now completely, well, it's just barely, it's pretty much break even right on the 0 line. And let's take it up to 10%. If there's a 10% increase in volatility, just keep watching that pink line. You can see it tick up, tick up, tick up, tick up, tick up. And so here we are at 10. So if there was a 10% rise in volatility, you can see at this 25% mark, it's a huge profit. This is a massive profit in a really like scary event. This thing is continuing to rise. And I bet it would, in a big enough event like that, it would raise more than 10%. Let's just keep going. We'll tick up. I wish I could just type in the number, but it's not letting me for some reason. So I'm just going to keep ticking up to 15%. Here's 15%. You can see how this thing just keeps rising and rising. If it were to crash all the way down, we have this here. You can see the numbers that we're getting into up here, 600,000, 700,000. And again, this kind of event may never happen, but it could happen. I mean, we've had some big significant events like the pandemic crashes, that Volmageddon thing. So again, I'm going to set this back to 0, the baseline, like where we're at right now. So that's the main reason why I like these structures, because it provides everything that the other structure, the new trade that we're going to be looking at, the Fury Road trade, provides everything that provides and way more. And once I joined the group that's trading this and began to trade this way, my whole game just took on a whole other level. I mean, I'd already been doing fine, but when I saw this and the other tactics that they use and strategies and methods that are taught in this group, it just blew away anything else that was out there. I mean, I've taken tons and tons of courses and I've learned tons of strategies, and I've never seen anyone else trade this way. I've never seen a program or strategies or a group. The community with this thing is just incredible. They have a mastermind, and the people that are involved in this group mastermind for the program that teaches this type of trading is just off the charts. It's like these are the smartest guys that I've ever met, trading huge accounts. A lot of them trading huge accounts, a lot of them trading hedge funds with these type of strategies. And just the mastermind alone, the mastermind is in addition to the course that teaches these strategies. It's an additional layer, like a kind of like a bonus. And just from the mastermind alone, I mean, the course totally changed my whole game. But just the mastermind, the other piece, the mastermind part of it has made me just what I've learned in that and hooking up with these other people in that group and seeing what they're doing and asking questions options, and just like what's taught on the monthly calls. And these are other strategies. That's not even this strategy. This is just like bonus strategies that we get from the mastermind. So I can't sing the praises of this program any higher. I mean, I want to shout it from the rooftops. This is like the pinnacle, the gold standard. This is the absolute best, not only strategy, this is the best strategy, the best course, the best program I've ever been out there. And it's just head and shoulders above everything else. And this trade, again, this type of a trade is just, it's just perfectly ideal for me. They're really slow. Like a typical trade that we put on, I can put a trade on that will, it takes just a few minutes to set up, but then I can walk away from it. And like within, say, 20 days to 40 days, it kind of varies, I can kick off an amazing return. But the better part is that I can kick off that greater return with this protection in place. I can sleep like a baby. Now let's look at the other trade. And again, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because when I saw the Thunder Road trade, or what do I call it, the Fury Road? Thunder Road. Hey, Thunder Road's not too bad. Isn't that like Greece? Anyway, so the Fury Road trade, when I saw that, I said, that looks sort of familiar, but it's sort of like it hasn't reached the complete evolution of what this trade. I could very well see this trade, the guy who created it, potentially trading that to begin with, and just over time and tweaking it and getting experience with it, it eventually transformed into this type of a trade. Because it's similar, but there's a lot of, this trade just beats it in so many different ways. So now that we have that one, let's look at the Fury Road trade real quick. The trade that I'm calling the Fury Road trade. So again, this trade is similar and it's kind of like along the right track, but it's just sort of like, I think it's earlier in the process. It's earlier in the stage. There's elements that are missing. It's sort of like, instead of seeing like a complete house, it's like a framework. Like the house isn't completed yet. The basics are there, but there's some problems. And the major problem is this fall off right here. So with this trade, the Fury Road trade, it's the same similar idea. You can see with this one, the way this is set up with the days to expiration, this is much, much closer to that tent area than the other one. The other one was up in this area here. It was like maybe like 8 to 10% away from the money. So the good things about this trade are that it's put on for a credit here. So you can make money if it goes all the way up. There's risk on only one side. You make money if the thing goes up, you make money if it stays where it's at, and you make money all the way down here. And then there's this tent area where you can make like bonus money if, and this is the important part, if it lands on expiration day in that tent. And if it doesn't, if there's a quick move down right now, that's what this pink line is, the 0-day line. You can see if there's a quick move down now, that pink line just falls and drops off. And let's just kind of compare it to where the other one was at. This is the 25% down mark on this. So if there was the same event, like a nuclear bomb going up tonight and the market just tanked, black swan type of event, with this trade, if we come down to 25%, you can see that we have a massive loss at this point. We're down 60 grand. And that's a scenario that I don't want to be in. If I can get the exact same or better results with the other trade and have that protection, that black swan protection, so that I'm actually making money, there's a 25% move down. I mean, of course, undoubtedly, I prefer the other thing. The other thing about this trade that a lot of people talk about, they say that they kind of like this area here, this box area, they sort of present that as like kind of like a good thing, like a bonus. And it is an interesting idea, but only if you're on the last day. So let's just say in this example, this trade is set up to be 90 days till expiration. And again, we're gonna walk through this real quick and just see how long it would actually take to be able to benefit from this tent area. Because again, if it were to crash right now, this pink line shows you where it's going to go. And it's just going to tank. Where on the other trade, it was more sloped. Actually, on the other trade, it was sloped up. So not only was it like the Vega was so much better, the delta was negative delta to acceleration and ramp into profits on a down move, where this one is just a complete fall off, a dive down, which is scary. And after you've kind of looked at the other trade and gone through that program and you understand what's possible and what kind of trades you can create and what's possible to create trade-wise, when you look at a risk graph like this, alarm bells are going off in your head. And it's hard for me to understand why alarm bells aren't going off in the other people's heads, the people who advocate this trade. And maybe just because that's the best they can find. And it is. I agree. This trade is way better than a lot of other strategies that are out there. But when you compare it to the other trade that I'm talking about, the other one I showed earlier, this one, there's really no comparison, because again, you get the exact same benefits plus a lot more. So real quick, let's tick through this and see how long it would actually take you to benefit from this box area. That's kind of a big selling point on this trade. So let's see how long that would actually take for you to actually be able to benefit from this. And let's just kind of do the same thing we did with the other one as well. Let's look at the volatility. Let's take the volatility. Let's say if there was a major event, like a black swan event. Let's move the volatility up on this one and just see what happens. And let's take this. So this is the 25% move down. Markdown, like if it were to drop 25%, that brown line there. Let's just move this up to like here, just so we can get, or even here. Let's put it in the box, right? Let's put it in the center of the box up here, and then let's move the volatility up. Again, at the volatility at the level it is right now, if there was a drop down to here, this is showing a loss of $4,277. But the volatility would rise on a drop down that big. So let's just take a look at this. So watch the pink line on this trade now as I raise the volatility. And I'll just kind of tick this up. Keep watching. Now, as I'm ticking it, you can see that the pink line is going down. That's because it's a negative Vega trade. And so at 5% down, we're down 8. We're down double what we were. So we just increased our loss by 2 times on a move down. And I think if there was a 1-day move down or even a couple day move down on this trade, I think that volatility would rise a lot more than 5%, which would make it even worse than this number. So this has doubled it in that tint area, the area that's supposed to be the hedge. So let's just keep raising that volatility. Let's keep going up. And as I'm ticking here, you can see that line just getting worse and worse and worse, dropping lower and lower and lower. So now at the 10% volatility pop, you can see that we're now down 12. So that's 3 times the amount where we were before. So a rise in volatility, which will happen on a move down, on a sharp move down, causes this pink line to sink even lower as it's going down. So that's what bothers me about this trade so much. And let's just take this back to 0 again real quick. And let's just see if everything works out fine throughout the whole duration of the trade. I think it's a 90-day trade. And let's just say that there wasn't a big move down or anything. Let's just see how long it takes for this pink line, which is the 0-day line, to actually move into a position where it can be profitable inside this box. Here's the date here. So this is the 14th. Let's just tick it. Again, you can watch that pink line. So now we're at January 7th. And so you can see that we're just starting now to potentially profit if it were to move down in this area. This is the 0 line. So in the bulk of it though, it's not. It's still underwater. And just real quick, let's raise the volatility here. Because if I raise the volatility, if there's a move down and we think we can take advantage of it, that's where our first real point is of benefiting from this box area. But if volatility were to go up, let's just be super conservative and say by 5%, which is not very much. You can see because of the same issue, because it's a negative Vega trade, that does nothing for you. That's not going to be in any profit whatsoever on a move down where the volatility rises. So let me just zero that back out. Let's just continue with the volatility at the normal level. So right now, this is showing over a month away. So for more than 30 days, this is where the benefit starts to come in on this trade right here. And let's just keep ticking. So you can see as I'm ticking forward day by day, we're getting more and more area inside this where we profit. Now we get a profit halfway through, but nowhere near the top, right? In this area here is more profit than you would get just if it stayed where it was at. But over here, you're at a loss in this area and you're really nowhere near that big payoff there yet. So this is February 10. So this is, okay, let's just stop here. This is 2 months out. So this is 60 days out. And in this area, you start to get some benefit. This is a 90-day trade. So we're 2/3 of the way through and you get some good benefit here. That's nice, but it's nowhere near the top of that thing. And there's also this area here that's at a loss. And again, if we were to take the volatility up, if there was a crash, let's just raise the volatility again, be super conservative and go to 5%. So there's 5% raise, which it would be more than that on a real crash. We're kind of back at this point again. It's the whole pink line that just brings it down. So let's just take this back to 0 again. This is volatility where it's currently at. We're at 60 days in trade now on this. Let's continue to tick forward. So now you can start to see this is probably 2.5 months. So 60, like say 75 days. There's maybe 2 weeks left till expiration. This is climbing. This is getting closer to that top, but it's still about, let's see, it's halfway there. It's showing a profit right here of about 3,500 out of a possible 6,200. And it's starting to cover a lot more of that tent area. But this is like, we're getting to the area of are we going to take this trade all the way into expiration? I don't know. That's what we're going to learn as we dig into this strategy. But let's continue to keep going. So now we're getting, this is about 1 week until these options expire. And you can see that this whole thing, this is nice coverage now, but this is with 1 week left. So we have to have no type of bear move or black swan event or trouble, any sort of down move for this to really benefit us till the last week that it's on. Where with the other one, we saw with the pink line how it ramped right into it immediately. And let's look at the other one real quick. And if we were to raise the volatility on this one, which would happen if there was a crash. So on the other one, the pink line was lower. It was dropping as volatility went up. This one, the pink line is going up. It's raising as volatility is going up, which is what we want. In a crash type scenario, we need that to offset it. We don't want to be down 60 grand like it showed in the other strategy. You can see with this, where the other one had that little boxy area that's very similar to this boxy area, but the pink line just came down. It was far away from it, and as volatility rose, it got even lower and lower and lower and lower. And it never really even entered, like, realistically a profit potential in that box area until the last week before it expired, or 2 weeks before it expired. Where this one is, we're super far away from expiration, and you can see if there was a drop down, we're going right into the box, and we're going high into the box on day one if there was like a crash today or tomorrow. So let's go back to the other one. So here's the other one. So I'm not crapping on this strategy. I think that this is one of the better strategies that are out there. I think this is way better than most of these strategies that are out there, but I think that this is being looked over. This is being kind of ignored. So realistically, this should be looked at as a problem. And the only way that it wouldn't be looked at as a problem is potentially if, say this was a stock, or let's say it was a SPY and you wanted to own SPY and you were willing to buy it at a super low level, which is kind of BS too, I think, because if you have the cash sitting in your account and it got down to that level, you could buy it at that level. So it's not like you have to put something at risk in order to get it at a lower level. If you played the trade right, where you wouldn't lose a ton of money on a crash down, you would have that money to spend at your discretion if it was at a lower level without being forced to take ownership at that level. I remember, I think it was Tom Sosnoff saying, like, everyone always says, yeah, well, I'd love to sell puts down there. I'd love to buy that stock at that level. But like, if it really happens on the day that it happens, when it's down there, you're not thinking that you want it. You don't want that stock at that level. Your whole outlook and game plan changes. And so, like, with the argument that this is good for buying stock at a lower level, I mean, okay, I'll take that, but it's not better than using a strategy like the other one here, where it protects you to the downside, where you can actually make a profit, a huge profit on a big down move, and you get all the other benefits of this one as well on top of it, without all this risk right here. So again, I'm not crapping on this strategy. I think that it's really interesting and cool. But when I look at it, it seems like it's there's a better way to do this. And it wouldn't be a strategy, I don't think, that I would implement as part of my core portfolio. I mean, we'll be doing test trades on this. And as we go through them, I'm going to try to implement some of those other methods where we're able to get that protection like that's in the other trade, see if it can be applied to this. The other strategies I'm already doing, that's the main core pillar. That's like my main bread and butter strategy. And the way that this is set up, I wouldn't be comfortable having this as my main core strategy, having a lot of money into this, just because of this big obvious problem here. And it may be right. I mean, this may never happen. A move down like that may never happen in our lifetime, but it can happen, and I've seen it happen. And if I can get the exact same benefit and all the perks and everything of this trade, plus I can have minimal risk or have no risk and actually make a ton of money if it were to crash, why wouldn't I go with that trade instead? So I just wanted to put this out there as I'm setting the stage. We're going to start in tomorrow on this trade and kind of do a deep dive on this trade here with the way that this is done with the naked puts. It's a trade I'm calling the Fury Road trade. And my plan is to just go ahead and trade it as it's being taught by this really cool group I'm involved with who's teaching this strategy. And we'll just go along, trade it with real money, and make videos, just kind of document it and record it, make videos through the way. And then as we kind of get into it, we get our feet wet and I get a better understanding of it. Then we'll start to see if we can add some additional tweaks to it that give us the same sort of a downside protection benefit that we get from the other trade. That is my core strategy. So to follow along with me on this, just go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just hit that subscribe button below. And if you'd like to learn either one of these strategies, either the one that I talked about first, which is my core strategy, the one that I have the bulk of my money into, that has that downside protection, the one I showed you earlier, this one, go ahead and just reach out to me. I can help hook you up with that and that great community and program that I'm involved in, which is like unlike anything you've ever seen before. Like, it just so far surpasses anything else I've seen out there as far as a program, as far as a strategy, as far as the community. The community is just unbelievable. There's just the mastermind community alone has made me tens and tens of thousands of dollars from the different strategies and techniques and tips and tricks in there that is being taught and shown by the members of it on a daily basis. So if you'd like to learn more about that strategy or this one, either one, just make sure you subscribe to my channel, or you can go to my website. Join me on my website. I'll put a link to my website in the description below. Head on over there, sign up for the free newsletter. You'll get a welcome email after you sign up for the free email newsletter. When you get that welcome email, just reply to it and say, hook me up. All right, that's it for today. Tomorrow we're going to start in on this. We're going to start a deep dive into this Fury Road trade, and we'll put on some sample examples, test trades, some sample trades, and just kind of record it and document it for the rest of this month. I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun and really insightful. So be sure to tune in tomorrow. That's it for today. See you tomorrow.